I love the $5 Paint Club. I love the $5 Paint Club. They will teach me how to paint all my projects. Show me how to paint furniture with a new mindset. I love the $5 Paint Club.
Hey everyone, Serena here with the $5 Paint Club, and this tutorial we are going to be talking about how do you Mod Podge paper onto a surface without any wrinkles. So when you're working with tissue paper and napkins, obviously if you get lines or creases, it's no big deal. But when you spend good money on a beautiful poster, a fabulous piece of paper like this, I got this at the Paper Source. They have all kinds of different papers. I just love that place so much. So when you spend money on a piece like this, I absolutely, I'm so in love with this little tiny dresser here. Now I've had this dresser, or this little nightstand, for quite some time in my house. It was actually blue. And we were in the process of redoing one of our guest bedrooms. So we wanted to add this little piece for when my nieces come this summer. They have something cute and girly in the room. Of course, we all know I love pink. So this gorgeous paper came from the Paper Source, and we picked out a color from Sherwin-Williams, just a nice soft pink. It's actually called Blushing. It's on your supply list. But one thing, if you take the traditional way of doing Mod Podge, which you put the Mod Podge on and you cut the paper and you put it on there, it's going to wrinkle. It's such a pain. And then you ruin your paper and then you have wrinkles in it. It's a very frustrating process. So in order to prevent that from happening, you have to kind of reverse think it. So what we're going to be doing is a little bit different than what you've ever been taught to do. It's a method that I was taught by my mother, who was a hippie in the 1970s, and decoupage or decoupage was very popular back then, mainly with resins though, more so than Mod Podge. But my mother always taught me how to apply paper is you apply the Mod Podge and you allow it to dry. And now you're thinking, how am I ever going to get the paper to stick if it's dry? Well, it's quite easy. An iron and parchment paper over the top of it, and you literally iron the piece on to the front of the thing. You iron it on nice and smooth, and the heat activates the Mod Podge and causes an adhesion to the surface, so it's nice and smooth. So those beautiful dressers that you see all over Pinterest with gorgeous posters that people bought at Hobby Lobby, that's how it's done. Now I don't know if that's how they're doing it. I've seen a lot of people in a lot of the forums and groups that are frustrated with it because they always get wrinkles and creases. So they haven't been hanging out with my mom to teach them the right way to do it. So basically you want to paint your piece. There's no sense in doing a nice pretty paint job here in the middle. Just kind of a thin coat. Really it was more about the edges. Now I didn't do a final coat of paint around the edges because once I get this on, I'm going to need to blend these surfaces in, and I'll do a little bit of paint then. So for the most part, this piece is ready to go. The hardest part in this entire tutorial is cutting the paper to fit properly. Now I actually cut it a little bit bigger than what I need it, and then I kind of trim it later. So you'll see, we're gonna go ahead and get started with this piece. Now, when you're working with dressers or anything with drawers, tip number one for today, I always write in the corner the little tiny number. So write the number of the drawer, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. I always go, you come up with a system that works for you. I always go left side down, right side down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if it's a 6-drawer dresser. Even though the drawers may look the same size, they never are. So number your drawers, that way you know that they always go back in the right spot. It also helps when you're doing a technique like this, and this is a certain sequence of the pattern, and you want to follow that and not get your drawers mixed up. So number your drawers, very important. take the extra step and number them. Just a little tiny number in the corner is all you need. So you want to get your first drawer, kind of line it up. Now, if you're working with a very specific pattern, like on a poster, you definitely want to make sure that you have it in the right area, the right sequence. Just kind of line these drawers up like this, the best that you can. That's why it's really important to make sure they're numbered. Don't cut corners. It'll cost you time when you start cutting corners. Okay, so once you have your drawers lined up, now I'm pretending as if I'm doing a giant, tall, big dresser, and I have a big, giant 36-inch poster. You want to make sure you get your table, line them out like this. If you have a way that works for you, good for you. This is how it works for us. I don't like doing big projects like this, big dressers and stuff. I get more gratification doing small things for my house. But on the flip side, if you are a furniture flipper, you can get some pretty serious dollars for pieces that have an amazing, amazing design or graphic on them. Okay. So I'm going to put my drawers back up. And I'm going to go ahead and get my Mod Podge on the top. Now, the type of Mod Podge that you use, it doesn't really matter. Mod Podge makes all different kinds. It's basically all the same thing. They make a gloss, and they make a satin, and they make one for furniture, and they make one for photo transfers, and they make one for everything. They're basically all the same. So whichever one you have laying around. Now remember, we're putting this on and we're going to allow it to dry. I know that's against everything you ever thought possible, but trust me, when you take glue and you take heat, heat makes the glue stick again. Also makes it remove. Sometimes you'll take a heat gun to remove sticky glue off of things, but you definitely want to make sure that you have a good coverage. Now when you're done with your piece, you're going to want to seal it definitely with a polyacrylic. Some people seal theirs with Mod Podge again. That's fine. That's what you want to do. But just find the sealer that works for you. I would not be waxing a piece like this. It's a lot of work to be waxing. I just don't think that the wax is going to be durable enough for a piece like this. And you don't want to be putting an oil-based wax on the paper that you just applied. Also, if you have little screw holes, make sure that you don't plug them up with your glue, because that's just going to cause you a headache later on. Okay, so we're going to let that set aside. I'm going to clean my little drawer holes here. Okay, and while that's drying, we'll cut up our paper. Now I just cut the paper so that it makes it a little bit easier to work with. Because this is a smaller project, I'm actually going to be leaving it one solid piece. If you are doing a larger dresser, you're definitely going to want to cut each drawer piece, by the way. This will make it easy because I can push the 3 drawers together and then iron it on, and then use my scissors to cut through each one, or an X-Acto knife as well works really well. Okay, so we're just going to set our paper aside until these bad boys dry, and then we'll get to work. Now, one thing you can do while you're waiting for your piece to dry, I did it earlier, so you don't need to. This is a good time to work on the hardware. The hardware for this, actually I already did it. I did a rose gold foil over it, so you can refer back to the foil tutorial on how to do that, but I just took some rose gold foils to it to make some rose gold pulls. So you'll see those later on. All right, so once your Mod Podge for the most part is dry, you should be able to touch it, and it, you know, it feels, might have a little bit of a tack to it, but you should be able to touch it and be okay. You're gonna wanna try to get your drawers as close as possible together. In this case, because I am doing a small piece, if you're doing them individually, that's fine. You'll have to cut each piece individually. Like if you're doing a large poster and you have 3 drawers, you wanna make sure you cut each piece individually. We're gonna go ahead and do it this way. I'm gonna go ahead and get my paper. Make sure I do it. The nice thing about paper like this is it doesn't really matter which way you put it. You're gonna kind of lay it down. Get it as straight as you can, at least it appears. But like I said, a nice thing with a print like this is that you don't have to worry too much about if it's even or if it's not. It's a print. And then you're gonna get some parchment paper. Like this. And then you're gonna take your iron. Make sure the steam setting is off on your iron. You don't want any water. And then you're gonna put it on kind of a medium heat. And you're just gonna basically iron your paper. Now you can run into like where we have, I can feel it when I'm ironing it, the little holes like where the hardware goes. So just be careful with that. And then basically you're just going to be ironing the paper on, and you're gonna probably get some wrinkles, and the idea is you need to iron those wrinkles out. It's natural for paper to wrinkle, so you wanna iron them out. And just kind of take your time with it. The parchment paper acts as the barrier between the paper and the wood. Nice and smooth. And it should have a nice tack to it as well underneath. You want to make sure that you kind of get the edges. We will be sanding the edges once we get them separated. Okay. And I can see a very nice, I have a little bit of a crease right here that I don't like, and it's right where the hardware goes. And so those little areas could cause, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of an area right here that's wrinkly, and I don't like that. So we're gonna go ahead and try to get that out. It's hard when you have those hardware holes because those cause air pockets. So we wanna see if we can try to work out that. Oh, look at, see that? Beautiful, right? Beautiful. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna separate it so that we can work with each drawer individually. Again, have your preference of what works for you. I've just found when you're doing smaller pieces with a couple of drawers, this way works the best. And you can actually, depending on your paper, you should just be able to go right down the middle. I would like get all professional on you all and get an X-Acto knife to do this, but only if I could find an X-Acto knife to do this, that would be great. Let's just go ahead and use this. As crafters, we don't always have the tools we need at the moment we need them. So we just find what works for us. Screwdriver will work too. Easy peasy, just like that. So now remember, we are going to be sanding our edges, so we're not gonna worry too much about it. We'll go ahead and separate our lovely little drawers here. And we do wanna keep ironing a little bit here, just to make sure now that we have them separated. We wanna just make sure these edges are good. The bottom, especially the corners, you also wanna make sure that your corners are good. It's so lovely. And look at that. You have a nice, beautiful, smooth, wrinkle-free finish. Wrinkle-free. There's nothing worse than, oh my God, I've seen some really bad ones. We're not even going there right now. Not even worth my time. They didn't have a mom from the 1970s to teach them all this stuff. Now remember, where there's not glue, you're not going to get a stick. So trimming the edges will be very, very easy for you because there's no glue on this section. Okay, so after you get done trimming your piece, you want to take your sandpaper and you do want to kind of go along the edges here of the paper. Now, it may take off, if you have a trim paint on it, it may take off some of the paint because remember, it's not sealed yet. Don't worry about that. We'll be able to tidy that up, no problem at all. Now, I like to just kind of distress the edges. So see, kind of give it this kind of old world look to it. If you find that you have some lifting on any of the corners, which very well could happen, I have one over here. Again, just have your iron handy, your parchment paper, and make sure since you've trimmed those edges that you just kind of run the iron over it again. Like I said, if you take off a little bit of paint because it's not sealed, it's okay. Now I have to say, the previous color of this little side table is this blue color. And what I'm kind of finding out is that I'm getting a little bit of the blue coming through when I'm sanding, and I kind of like it because it matches the blue in the thing. So I may actually kind of leave it. I'm now just kind of heavily distressing it to see if I kind of like it. And it's actually a really good match too for the blue that was there. Now there's no doubt that doing a piece like this is very time intensive. But you know, just kind of work out at your pace. You and your iron and your parchment paper, that's all you need. We'll kind of see how these drawers look when I get them in, but I'm kind of digging this distressed look. I had previously painted the inside of them the same color. I'm just leaving that color that, oh my God, I'm loving that. You see that? So that's kind of the distressed look. And here's the touch look. So you can kind of see the two side by side of what they look like. Now the key is to have good quality paper. That's why the posters that you usually find like at Hobby Lobby, posters.com, any of those places are usually like really good papers to use. They're nice and thick and durable. And of course, if you have a paper source near you, you have access to all kinds of different papers. If at any point you get a little bit of a nick, maybe where you didn't get enough Mod Podge, you can add a little bit more Mod Podge to it. I just happen to kind of like do a hard press of the iron. Once you seal it with the polyacrylic, it's not going anywhere. So usually with the iron, hard press will get any lifting boo-boos up. If you happen to get a big boo-boo, then get the Mod Podge out and pray for its mercy. Okay, so now we have these absolutely stunning, beautiful, amazing drawers here. We're gonna go ahead and we'll get this piece up. We're gonna pop them in and kind of see what it looks like with those distressed edges. I think because they're drawers, I'm gonna be okay with it, but I just go with it. And even when you're teaching tutorials, you never just quite know what you're gonna get. Ooh, that's so pretty. Okay, so once your piece is dry, you've touched up anything that you needed to touch up, you're pretty confident of where your paper is, then you want to seal it. So you're pretty much going to go about the same approach as you would if you were using a regular sealer or a polyacrylic on here, the same on here. Now, the best piece of advice that I can give you about using polyacrylic on paper, less is better. So you're not going to want to gob it on, not that you normally want to do that anyways, but you definitely want to test a little bit of a corner and make sure you're not going to get any wrinkling, because that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of it. It has happened. If your glue in your paper is not dry enough, as soon as the polyacrylic hits it, it can cause wrinkling. So you want to be really, really careful. Test the little corner of it. If you're kind of fearful of what you're going to get and you spend a lot of time on a piece, you can actually take a clear spray to it, like a spray polyurethane, a polyacrylic, or any of those clear craft sprays, even a glitter spray if you wanted to. And you can do a spraying motion so that you can get a good base on it without the fear of ruining, because obviously this type of technique can take a long time, especially if you're doing a big piece. It's very tedious, a lot of time, a lot of sanding. All my projects require a lot of sanding. But anyway, so I'm just going to show you when you do the polyacrylic, less is better. I always use the matte finish on the polyacrylics. I don't like shiny things. Also, remember, I don't believe in dipping my paintbrush into my container. It will contaminate it. It will make it yucky. This brush looks blue, but it's not, there's no paint on it, I swear there's not. A very thin coat of the polyacrylic. When you do it, you kind of drain, you see, you push the excess off your brush like that, okay? And I'm pretty confident I'm not going to get any wrinkling with my piece. I'm pretty confident that I have a good stick. I got lots of ironing, so if there are any air bubbles in it, it will wrinkle. And in that case, let it dry and get a little needle or point pen and pop it and then iron it out again. So if you do get a little something, you can fix it. Everything is almost fixable. And just remember, it's just paint. You can always just go and, well, in this case, it's just paper. You can always just go and do it again. Not that you would want to, but less is better. Nice, slow, less is better, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and seal the rest of the piece. You guys would do the same. And once the piece is sealed, we'll give it a little time to sit and dry out, and we'll attach the hardware and it will be done. Here you have our Mod Podge paper technique using an iron and parchment paper to make sure that you have a perfect wrinkle-free piece. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you around the next time. Thanks so much. Bye.